What's the scariest theory known to man? More than, let's say we have an anthill in the middle of the forest, and right next to the anthill, they're building a 10-lane superhighway. And the question is, would the ants be able to understand what a 10-lane superhighway is? Would the ants be able to understand the technology and the intentions of the beings building the highway next to them? More than so, it's not that we can't pick up the signals from Planet X using our technology. It's that we can't even comprehend what the beings from Planet X are or what they're trying to do. It's so beyond us that even if they really wanted to enlighten us, it would be like trying to teach ants about the internet. Yes. I forget the name of the argument, but it goes as follows. Assumptions. The brain is the origin of all consciousness. The brain operates on electrical impulses. External stimuli can affect the way the brain operates. Any external stimuli to the brain can be simulated to a degree that the brain cannot distinguish these simulated stimuli from natural stimuli. A point. You could be a brain in a jar, being fed false impulses for your entire life by an external source. Or, you, still a brain in a jar, could be hallucinating your entire life from lack of stimuli. Edit. Formatting. Edit. Brain in a vat. Also, nod to the 20 or so like the Matrix posts. I envisioned the brain being removed from the body, which is not the case with the Matrix. Vaccinated jet fuel can melt autism. That I'm actually retarded, so everyone treats me like I'm normal. Quantum suicide, quantum immortality. The idea that we never really die in our perspective. Every time we encounter a situation where we may die, we continue on in a parallel universe where something happens that prevents our death. But we die in the original universe, in a sense. Our consciousness lives on by transferring itself to a parallel universe where we continue to exist. When God and Lucifer had their battle in heaven, the devil actually won and cast out God. Now he is sitting up in heaven, pretending to be God while he wreaks havoc down here. It would explain a lot. Edit. As per suggestion. Writing prompt here. The one about the Rugrats being a figment of Angelicus' mental instability. One day mankind will have access to weapons more powerful than nuclear warheads, and they'll be used in anger. Quantum immortality is pretty scary. Every time the universe splits, your consciousness only continues on into one of the created universes. Eventually we all end up being the sole inhabitant of a universe filled with P-zombies. That is, people who act normally but lack conscious inner lives. What's worse, we continue to live despite a never-ending series of things that nearly kill us. Illness, losing limbs, becoming incredibly old and infirm. So we cannot die but are stuck with increasingly terrible, lonely lives for all eternity. That a computer smart enough to pass the Turing test would also be smart enough to know to fail it. Think about that for a little bit, then fail to fall asleep tonight. In philosophy, invoking physics and biology, that is determinism, which in short says you have no free will. Every aspect of the world operates according to specific natural laws. There is a direct cause for any effect, and by knowing the relationship between them and the environment, you can know the results. If you throw a ball up, it will come down. If we had perfect information about the ball and its environment, we could predict exactly, to the atom, where it would land. As it stands, we are pretty freakishly good at it anyway. What then of humans? Unless you believe in the spirit soul etc. that is detached from the causal chain. That is to say, something immaterial. The modern understanding of the human body is that we are purely physical systems acting in accordance with natural laws. I wrote this because some sets of neurons in my brain generated these words in response to being triggered by some protein elsewhere and my own history and the fact that I like to share information. I had no say in any of this according to determinism. If an observer had perfect information about the whole universe and its laws, they could, without question, not only have known that I was going to write this but also what words I would write, which ones I rewrote, and the edits I will make tomorrow, because everything follows a strict sequence of cause and effect. I had no more choice in writing this than you did in reading it. What happened happened and could have happened no other way. The transcension hypothesis. Are we truly alone? The phantom time hypothesis. The phantom time hypothesis is a historical conspiracy theory advanced by German historian and publisher Harry Buttelig. born 1947, which proposes that the year 613 was followed by the year 911 and that historical events between AD 614 and 911 and the early Middle Ages of Europe and neighboring regions are either wrongly dated or did not occur at all, and that there has been a systematic effort to cover up that fact. The hypothesis suggests a conspiracy by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto II, Pope Sylvester II, and possibly the Byzantine Emperor Constantine VI to fabricate a dating system that placed them at the special year of AD 1000, and to rewrite history, inventing the heroic figure of Charlemagne among other things. Edit. Not suggesting I believe it, rather that it's scary that others do, as you Sandora notes below. This is called the false vacuum death of the universe. It's kinda on line with cold death and heat death, but a lot more sudden. That the universe can be gone in an instant and we wouldn't notice because we'd get wiped out by another expanding universe. I'll try my best to explain as simple as I can get it. Think of it as a wave. Universe A and Universe B are waves. A is bigger than B. Due to A being more stable and larger, it swallows up Universe B. With this, we might not even notice. It goes at the speed of light, so we won't be able to see it ahead of time. Edit. The effects perhaps are drastically different depending on how stable each universe is to each other and what happens at the event horizon. I'm beginning to regret opening this thread now. Star Trek style teleportation will someday be created. It works by taking someone apart and reassembling them at the other end from pure particles. So, what if consciousness did not make the leap? This means every time someone is beamed, they die and are cloned at the other end with memories intact. And then society develops in a direction where everyone is killing themselves over and over, some only living for a few minutes. Special relativity. If there really is no way to exceed the speed of light, ever, no matter how clever, the universe will never be explored. Quantum immortality. On the short term it might give you some comfort, but in the long term your ability to function as an observer doesn't require you to actually have any of your senses intact, nor does it suggest your near-death experiences would be painless. You could theoretically survive being ejected into space due to quantum shenanigans on a macro scale. You'll survive beyond humanity, beyond all other life probabilistically, and spend an uncountable amount of time alone waiting for the heat death of the universe. Can't think of the name off the top of my head, but I would say that experiment where students at a uni were playing officers and prisoners in a jail. It shows just how ducked we can be. Two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Arthur C. Clarke. That there is a God. I am sorry, but considering all the wars, the travesties, the pains and horrors that we, as human beings, have caused upon ourselves throughout our history, even our known history is terrifying. To think that there is some God that thinks this is all okay, scares me to think what he thinks is bad. Rocco's Basilisk. A godlike guy from the future is going to torture you for eternity, and yet the only way to even lessen this torture is to slavishly devote the rest of your life to bringing this eye into existence. This isn't a theory really, but the concept of infinity is terrifying. Every possible thing happens eventually, and World War II and Taco Bell are both plausible outcomes given the laws of our universe. There are so many interesting and disturbing theories. Since I haven't seen it suggested yet, I'll tell you about solipsism. Solipsism equals the view or theory that the self is all that can be known to exist. Basically, the only thing that you're sure of is that you exist. How do you know that other people are actually conscious, real, and alive? How do you know that the world you live in actually exists? Since your mind is the only sure thing to exist, it's possible that everyone else and everything else are just projections from your own consciousness. Living your day-to-day life requires that you assume other people are real and everything else is real. On Wikipedia, it says assuming that there is a universe independent of an agent's mind and knowable only through the agent's senses. How is the existence of this independent universe to be scientifically studied? If a person sets up a camera to photograph the moon when he is not looking at it, then at best he determines that there is an image of the moon in the camera when he eventually looks at it. Logically, this does not assure that the moon itself, or even the camera, existed at the time the photograph is supposed to have been taken. To establish that it is an image of an independent moon requires many other assumptions that amount to begging the question. We just assume that we live in a real, physical world and that everyone else is real as well. However, there is no way to test this. All you can be sure of is that you exist. The Great Filter. It's a theory about why the universe seems so filled with potential for life and yet we haven't found it. It states that somewhere between pre-life and an advanced civilization capable of colonizing the stars, there's a great filter that stops them and ends life. This means humans fit into one of these three scenarios. Capital A. We're rare, meaning we've already passed the Great Filter, unlike other civilizations on other planets. Capital B. We're the first, meaning conditions in the universe are only now life-friendly and we're among many on our way to the capability of colonization. Capital C. We haven't hit the filter yet, meaning we're ducked. If this one is true, it means finding life or proof of life on Mars or Europa would be awful news because it would almost certainly mean the filter is still ahead of us instead of behind us. More good reading. Edit. The full paper from Nick Bostrom.